Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CamiPaige Boutique. I'm Brooke Tannehill and today I'm going to show you how I made this clear cast vinyl wrap with floral transfer custom epoxy tumbler. As always, all the products I use will be listed in the description below, and you may even find a coupon code or two that saves you some coin. Also, come join our exclusive Facebook group where you can take advantage of upcoming freebies and giveaway that you aren't going to want to miss. So without further hesitation, let's go ahead and get started. For this tumbler, I am using a 20-ounce straight skinny, and I am just grabbing my 80 grit sanding block, and I am just kind of roughing up the surface of the cup and prepping it for paint. I like to do this because it kind of gets that coating off of the stainless steel, and since I'm not going to be spray painting it, it really prepares it for the paint. Then I grab my 91% alcohol, spritz it on the tumbler, and just rub it down with a shop towel because they don't really have lint on them, and then we are ready to move into the next step. For the base paint, I am actually using Smooth Jazz, which is a light purple from Miss Lillian's No Wax Chock paint, and I am just giving this a nice, just kind of quick, even coat over the entire surface of the cup. I really like this paint because it has self-leveling properties to it, a lot like epoxy. So when you're painting it on, and I'm using a cheap makeup brush from like the dollar store, it doesn't show paint strokes. Like you won't be able to see paint strokes at all, and you can see how light this color is, but it's still covering the stainless steel amazing. So I paint this on, let it dry for about 10 minutes, and then move into the next step. I did do a second coat of paint and let that fully dry, and then I grabbed my glitter glue from Artistry Epoxy. I love this stuff because I was such an avid, just did everything the epoxy method for applying my glitter, but I have to say that this does just as well, except you don't have to mix epoxy. So I just put a nice layer over the entire surface of the cup, spread it out evenly, and I let it sit for maybe like a minute or two. But the thing that's really nice about this glitter glue is that it doesn't dry as fast as Mod Podge, and I feel like you get better coverage. So I never have to do 2 coats of glitter with the glitter glue, 1 coat, and I get amazing coverage. So I really like this stuff. So that's why I've kind of switched to this method versus the epoxy method. If you prefer the epoxy method, absolutely use that. You just want to make sure that you have a nice adhesive laid down to apply your glitter that's going to give you nice, even coverage. After I have a nice even coat of that glitter glue on the cup, I grab Blossom from Boujie Glitter Boutique, and I absolutely love this glitter mix. It's a mix between like a pink and a purple, and it's got a bunch of different cuts of that color in it, so it just reflects life so beautiful and it just truly sparkles. But I am just completely covering the entire surface of the cup, not holding back, and making sure to get the butts just to make sure that I have all the coverage the way I want it, and you can see that I'm not going to need a second coat of glitter. I let the glitter dry for about 45 minutes to an hour, then I sealed it twice with Rust-Oleum clear gloss spray paint, let that dry, and moved into 2 coats of Artistry's 1-to-1 fast set epoxy because it covers chunky glitter really well. After that fully cured, I would say for about 6 or 7 hours, I grabbed my orbital sander, which is what I'm using here, with 120 grit sanding paper, and I am just rocking the cup back and forth on both sides. And the reason why I do this is because the orbital has a very rigid surface, so it's not bendable. And what this does is it knocks down the high parts of your cup while also not digging out the low parts to create a bigger difference between the two. This is super important with these clear casts because if your cup is not completely smooth, you're going to see it. So if there's any like divots, your vinyl is not going to go over it. You're going to have a big bubble, and I don't recommend it. So once I hit the flat surface of the cup with the orbital, I grab my just sanding block right here, and I just go around the edges of the bottom just to make sure that they are perfectly smooth as well, so that we don't have any pokey bits coming through the vinyl and not making our design perfectly smooth. After the butt is good to go, I grab my Dremel with my flap wheel. This is a 120 grit flap wheel, and I just go around the top edge of the cup to make sure that I'm knocking down either any epoxy that's going over the edge, but also just exposing a little bit of that stainless steel at the top rim, so that way we get really good adhesion of our next layers of epoxy. It's important to do it at this step, especially when you're doing the vinyl wraps, because otherwise if you're to use the Dremel, you have the problem, or you run the chance of ripping the vinyl and then seeing it when you go through the design. So I recommend doing this at this step. taking your sanding block afterwards just to smooth out that hard line that the flap wheel can sometimes create if you've used it a couple of times, and just making sure that if somebody were to drink out of the top of the cup without a straw, that they wouldn't like cut their lip or feel anything too sharp. After your cup is fully sanded, wash it down with Dawn dish soap and then go into another coat of epoxy. You need to have your cup with a fresh coat on it, fully cured before you go into this step, because any sanding will show through. So this vinyl that we're using is actually a sticky sheet from Mr. Nola's Glitter. I was in New Orleans a couple months ago and had a chance to go to the store, and I absolutely loved it and spent way too much money, but I highly recommend that everybody do it once. But what I'm doing is I am just removing a little bit of the strip of that vinyl and really pushing it down on the cup as straight as possible. So one trick that you can do is turn the cup upside down and use your kind of surface to line it up and get it straight. And then what I do is, after that's all attached really well to the cup, I will flip it over and I will start to peel back the backing. Then I will use the squeegee like you see here to push off the backing and really adhere that vinyl to the cup really well. I know this is a weird angle for you guys to see that, but I apologize. Once you come to the end, grab some blue painter's tape, especially with these clear casts, just so you can see it, and push the top layer down on top of that painter's tape. This is going to show you and give you a guide for a perfectly straight line to cut your vinyl with, and I found that it just sets me up for success, especially with these clear vinyl wraps. Then you're just going to want to cut off the excess. So you can see here I'm just going around with a knife at the top, or at the bottom, because we had already lined up the top, and I'm just cutting off any of the excess. You could have trimmed it ahead of time. I was just live, so I didn't do it. So I'm just pulling it off there and then pulling the tape with it. This got kind of messy because I didn't trim it, but you can see how nicely that wrap went onto the cup. I'm then going to just push down the bottom of the top to make sure that I've got that vinyl really nice and pushed down. And then we're going to use our vinyl cutter from CamiPaige Boutique. So you just simply put the vinyl on, twist it a couple of times on the blade, and then you'll get a perfectly cut line at the bottom. And then you can also do it at the top rim to make sure that your vinyl doesn't go all the way up to the top rim of the cup, and it'll be perfectly even around the entire surface. After the vinyl is applied, you do not have to seal it. You can just go into a coat of epoxy. Now, some of you might just say, well, why didn't you just apply the transfers over the top of it? Well, there's actually some texture to these sticky sheets, so you can actually feel how they're printed on, because Mr. Nola's knocks it out of the park with this stuff. Like, the printing process that they do really kills it. So that's why it's so vibrant on the surface of the cup. So I wanted to go in with a coat of epoxy just to make sure that I have a perfectly smooth surface to apply the transfers to, because you will see them through the transfers and I'll show you when we get to that step. But here I'm just mixing up 20 milliliters of Artistry's 1-to-1 fast set, let it dry for probably about 2 hours, and it was dried to the touch. You do want to make sure that you hit the epoxy with the heat gun just to pop any bubbles in case they appear, so that you get that perfectly smooth surface. Once it's dry, I grabbed these floral transfers from Southern Belle Glitter, and I really found out about them because Susanna Renaud, and then now my really good friend Brittany Barnes has kind of reinvigorated my love for them. But this is the Susanna Renaud pack, and what you want to do is you're just going to cut out little florals of the transfers and put them on your cup, and you'll see there that like the front part of it starts to come off as you're using this wood tool to kind of rub the transfers onto your cup. So I hope you can see here really why we needed that smooth surface, because if it would have been uneven, you would have seen it through this pattern. So you're just going to rub it, and all I'm doing here is just using my weeding tweezers to kind of pull up that top application paper, I want to say, and you're just going to want to slowly remove it so that your florals remain. I also cut out this like little floral decal transfer for the back, and here you can see you just get it into place where you want it. Make sure that it's nicely pushed down. So you really want to spend some time making sure that it's pushed down, because otherwise it won't apply the way you want it. And then I come in with this wood tool, and it comes with your order. It's not like you have to buy this tool. And just really make sure to spend time getting that transfer pushed down and well adhered to the cup before you lift the paper. If it's not adhered when you lift the paper, you'll see the transfer on the paper, and that's not going to be a good day, because it's going to like make your pattern look a little incomplete. Once the transfers were applied, I moved into a coat of epoxy. So I just mixed about 20 milliliters up. And I am applying Pixie Dust from Boujie Glitter Boutique. This is an epoxy additive that just adds like the perfect amount of extra sparkle over the top of the transfers. So I'm just going to kind of start by applying it all over the surface of the cup. And you're going to see just like that ever so slight bit of glitter that's going to go over the entire surface of the cup. It doesn't take away from your other glitters in the background. It's just going to give a little twinkle of sparkle over the transfers that we applied. So I am going to let this cup fully cure and turn for probably about 2 or 3 hours, but then I decided that it needed a little bit of something extra. So I totally pulled from my Susanna Renaud vibes, and I will show you what I did to add that little bit of oomph to the cup. After that coat of epoxy dries, I come in with my acrylic paint pen and I just kind of loosely outline the different designs on the cup. Now, the reason why I did a coat of epoxy is like why you can see there is because if you mess up and you have that fresh coat of epoxy, you can just wipe it off. But if you were to draw directly on your transfers, it wouldn't be cute and you would risk really ruining the whole kind of design element. So there isn't any right or wrong. You just kind of roughly go around the outlines of the flowers. Now, this is a watercolor type floral pattern. So I followed kind of the petals, but also the color variations to add some more depth. So just kind of take your time, go wherever your heart desires with the outlines. Again, there is no right or wrong. And you'll find that this is actually pretty therapeutic and I really enjoyed this step. Yes, I did not get it right the first time, but I really enjoyed doing it and I liked the added detail that it gave to the florals that I added to the cup. So you can either skip this step or go with it, but I really liked the way it added to the overall design. After I was done drawing on the florals, I added a silver strip to the back to hide the seam of the cup, went into a coat of epoxy, and this baby was done. I hope you can see just how beautiful this cup turned out, and OMG, I absolutely love it. I hope this tutorial inspires you, and I can't wait to see what you create. If you have any questions about any of the steps or information shared, please feel free to reach out, and I'll be more than happy to help. As always, thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me. If you like this tutorial, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see future videos. You can also ring the bell so you are notified of all future cup making goodies. Thank you again. I love you guys. Bye.